Our next question looks something like this. Talking about E85, or a vehicle that is not equipped for E85, but a customer sees the price break and they don't understand, they don't have a flex fuel rated vehicle, so the nozzle fits and they put some E85 in their vehicle that's a non-flex fuel vehicle. What can happen? The question basically is, should I put a new fuel pump in if this is, in event this sort of thing happens? Well, there's a lot of ifs and ands and buts about that. But I will say, typically, if there's an excessive amount of E85 used initially, like a one-time thing, let's say they were in a quarter tank and they filled it up, oftentimes the vehicle won't make it very far if it even makes it away from the gas station. Without the yellow gas cap indicating we've got a computer on board that's going to be able to detect E85 either with a virtual sensor using fuel trim after a fuel fill. So we see a 3-gallon or greater input going up on our fuel gauge. The computer says, we must have got gas. And we see a fuel trim number start going much higher than before we got gas. The computer then concludes we've added E85, so we'll just fatten the injector pulse width. We'll have basically a new learned pulse width that is different than what it was before. That's not there when you have a non-E85 non-flex fuel vehicle. Therefore, you're going to have drivability issues, probably the point where it may not even start or it may misfire, have really poor performance. Maybe it makes it home, and for a cold start the next morning to go into the repair shop, maybe it doesn't even start. So it comes in on a hook to your shop. In an event like that, where you quiz the customer and say, have you ever done this before by accident, and so forth, then I would say you wouldn't have to put a new pump in. Our pumps, at least speaking for Delphi, are rated for close to 500 hours before we start seeing trouble after E85 with a non-E85 pump. Our pumps actually are rated to E15, even though E10 is all there's out there pretty much now in the gas stations besides the flex fuel. Now, if you find out from your customer, if you can get the good truth and scoop from them, that there is been a pattern of poor drivability, getting that E85 gas in the non-flex fuel vehicle, then to be on the side of caution, you might opt for a fuel pump. Now keep in mind, it's not just a fuel pump, it's any elastomer. So, even on an old system that's using a regulator, you've got elastomers, you've got O-rings around here, you've got O-rings around the injectors, you've got O-rings in the fuel system. Those will swell. They're not rated for the E85. Plus the corrosive nature of E85 due to the fact that it pulls water in, it's hydroscopic. That's a bad recipe for a vehicle whose gas tank lining, elastomers, and even plastic materials are not rated for E85. So if you've seen a lot of abuse of this going on, then I would start suggesting a lot of different things. O-rings, if you see leaks especially, and a new pump. And by the way, speaking of the new pumps, we've mentioned in this program a lot about the strainers and also about inline filters. And I think most technicians realize that the new inline filters are no longer inline, they're in the pump. But also realize at the bottom of this pump modular bucket assembly, the reservoir, is another strainer. So it's white in this unit right here. You can look down with a flashlight and you can see it. You can take pumps apart. It's a good idea to take pumps apart and look and see what's in there. If it's a lot of junk, you want to address the fuel contamination problem for sure.